How you doing, everybody? Nick DiVirgilio here. I'm on stage at Sweetwater Sound with Anika Nilles. How cool is this? Thanks for jamming with me. That was so much fun. Welcome to Sweetwater. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Nick. It's a pleasure being here.
Cool. Now, you've been on a clinic tour and just touring in general. Your travel schedule seems to be crazy right now. So how are you feeling, and where were you last night?
Chicago,
I think, right?
A lot of stuff to do right now. So, we came all the way from Chicago here to Sweetwater.
And how long is this clinic tour going to last for you?
We started 12 days ago in Canada, and we still have to do 3 more dates or 2 more dates here in the U.S. Yeah.
Now, I've done a few clinics in my lifetime, and they're a lot of fun to do, stressful. You travel a lot, but you also get to see a lot of the world, which is really cool. How do you like this clinic sort of thing?
Actually, I'm honest, I like it because I like teaching. Right. So, and I see the clinic as a good mix between playing a little bit for myself, having fun on the drums, but also explaining stuff, breaking stuff down, teaching a little bit. And for the most important thing is I get in touch personally with the people I'm connected with online. So, cool thing for me. That's
very cool. Now, and speaking of teaching, you've been doing that for a while, right? And you do drum camps and all kinds of other things.
Yeah, right.
Now, are your drum camps, whenever you do them, are they based around in Germany, around your home, or do you kind of do them around the world? How does that work?
Oh yeah, actually, I recently started my own drum camp, which is located, of course, in Germany, but also in Italy. And I do a lot of drum camps where I'm invited to be one of the teachers. You know, there are several teachers, and I just take part on have a little bit, teaching lessons there. I do that a lot.
Very cool. Now, your story is quite unique as far as, you've been playing drums since you were a little kid, right? You started at a pretty young age, correct?
I did, yeah, I did.
But you didn't really take on the role of being a pro drummer, making a living at playing drums until your mid-20s.
Right.
So now, for people that kind of get a lot of information and come to Sweetwater for these kinds of things, they might not know who you are. Can you give us a little bit of your background and how that kind of came to be?
Sure. I started playing drums really early, like in the age of 6. So I guess that happened through my dad, who have been a drummer that time. He quit in the meanwhile, but he rehearsed with his band in our basement, and so I just dropped by sometime.
Music was around.
Yeah, music was around, and he just realized that I'm interested in this instrument and put me to a local music school, and so everything starts. But for a long time it was just in my free time. I played in a lot of bands, but more like really on a level which is like a free time stuff. Not really a pro. And as I got older in my teenager years, so I realized actually this is what I want to do. Actually, I want to be a drummer, but my parents, they wanted to have me in a safe job, like, a real job and all that stuff. So I studied education, and they told me afterwards I can do whatever I want. And after I finished my studies, then actually I stuck a little bit in this job. So I got a good job where I thought, okay, man, I studied 4 years, and now let's just give a year, and then I start studying drums, or make that change to pro musician. But then it took mainly 6 years, and I started studying drums at the university in the age of 26. Right, and this were the time where I actually really started practicing.
Right, and it's very cool. I get where you're coming from. So were you still playing drums in those years where you had the regular job and in school? So you never kind of gave up?
No, I never gave up. Actually, I founded like a drum school back home, like a little drum school, which I still run. I still teach there sometimes by myself. And I studied, of course, besides working on my regular day job, I studied a little bit drums and practiced and rehearsed with all the bands, but not that really like deeply or really had the passion to study things like really deep. So it was more like, keep it going, and be creative with the bands, because these were already original tracks we composed. I've never been in a cover band or something like that before. So I guess this helped a lot to be creative on the drums as well. And I never gave up on that.
So during all this time, you play some really cool music. I mean, I describe it as fusion, a little jazz, with funk and all these flavors in it. But what were you listening to when you were young, and what music got you started? Was it that same sort of style, or totally different?
It was actually, I come from, I would say I'm actually a rock drummer.
Okay, yeah, I believe it.
So I grew up with the stuff of Toto. I grew up with Foo Fighters. Actually, a little bit Dream Theater as well.
Okay.
So I got into the prog stuff a little bit more. I listened to Goo Goo Dolls. Yeah. I don't know if you know these guys.
Sure.
A lot of rock stuff, Chili Peppers, all that stuff. And then I went a little bit more in the soul direction, like Just Stone, John Mayer at some point. And this is what I've listened a lot to, actually.
Well, your music definitely has, I mean, your original stuff that you have on the records and on YouTube, you could tell it has all that flavor of all those things going on. But what got you into, getting into the odd time stuff and all of these things? Was it the studying of drums and getting deep into the instrument where it got you more into the fusion sort of side of things, or did you how'd that grow? Yeah,
actually, that's a little bit a strange story how I came into the odd stuff, because I listened to Dream Theater, which has a lot of odd meter stuff and all this, but I wasn't really able to play along. I just listened a lot to that stuff, and I realized for myself that when I want to learn something like a new style, something new on the drums, new patterns, new grooves, I need to hear the music before I start studying that stuff. I needed to listen to it for a couple of months to get a feel for it. And actually, in this case, it was more coming from a jam with a bass player back home in Germany, where he asked me, "Can you play something in 5, like the small 5, the 5/16s? Can you play a groove on that?" Because he told me he did that once with another drummer. And I just figured out, what's going on? What should I do? I had no idea how to do that. And actually I thought, why not? Why not figuring out what you can do with 5 notes to quarter note pulse? It started really theoretical in the beginning for me, like just really figuring out mathematically how I can split the 5 in several groupings and all that stuff. But I started in the smallest frame, the 5/16s, and not in a regular 5/8, 5/4 thing, which the most of the guys starting with when it comes to odd meter stuff, And so I studied really like 1 or 2 years more or less on that stuff, and then that brought me into the other odd meter stuff, So then I listened more in this direction, like different styles, different music, different artists, and of course drummers who does that, like Virgil Donati does that a lot and plays it really clear that you understand actually what's going on, not that you can play it, but you know what's going on. And I figured out a lot what he's doing, and that brought me into it.
Are you at the point now, because when you play the odd stuff, everything you're playing, you look so fluid and it looks easy, which is great. Are you at the point now in your playing where it just comes out? Do you have to really think about what's going on? Are you counting, or are you just at the point now where you can just you've done it enough, things sort of just flow out of you?
Actually, I don't think about it anymore. When I practice stuff, then I count.
Yeah, when you're at home or
when I'm figuring out new stuff, new combinations, new stickings, then I count to not lose the pulse. But stuff I've worked out, I don't think about it anymore. It's just coming out.
Yeah. Fantastic. That's really cool. Okay, so now let's talk about the internet and YouTube, and that's sort of, I guess, where you got your break. From what I'm reading, and you tell me if I'm wrong, that your first song, Wild Boy, you sort of did that just to try and get more work. To put out so you can kind of get more work around your home and something like a video resume, so to speak. But then it really took off for you. So were you what was your thought process when that just kind of exploded?
I was actually a little bit like overwhelmed and really surprised, because that happened literally like overnight.
Yeah.
Really, I put that out. Next morning I woke up and it was like bam, boom, right in the face, you know.
Sure.
And I got calls from the company, from drum companies, and also interview requests and all that stuff that came overnight, and it was like, what? What's going on? So, and of course at the university where I was still studying at that time, the teachers, they supported that a lot, and they really guided me a little bit. And also my producer, where I was working with already, he also guided me a lot through that first year, you know. Yeah, and I mean, that was a crazy time, really a crazy time. And yeah, and I just took the chance, actually.
Sure.
You know, it wasn't planned being here one day, it wasn't planned doing clinics and all that stuff, and it wasn't planned to have a career based on YouTube.
Sure.
That was never an idea of mine. So I just took the chance on some point to turn it into something serious, something real, and build a business on it.
That's fantastic. That's awesome stuff. Now, how do you, I mean, I'd like to talk a little bit about females in drumming and females in music in general. I mean, do you see yourself as a woman at the forefront of this? I mean, because you're playing at a really high level. There's always been girls playing drums forever, and there's a lot more now, and the internet is helping, I think, women shine and show that they can play drums, of course. How do you feel about where women are in the state of this instrument?
That's actually a good question and a good topic to talk about, because for myself, I've never seen myself as a female drummer. I've never, no one told me, as a female drummer, what do you think? You know, that came actually up on some point where I thought, okay, now I have this female in front of drummer. For me, it always was just that I grew up with guys around me playing other instruments. We played together in bands. I had other drummers I jammed with, and they never let me feel stupid or like something special, or, you know, that was a totally smooth, regular thing between, playing between all these guys. And at some point I realized that I turned like in a kind of a role model for other females around the world, actually, you know. And I realized, okay, in some countries it's not that usual, and they don't have the support from their parents. They don't push them to keep forward and keep going playing that instrument, and they need someone from outside who they can look up to, and where they can get like inspired from and get pushed to play drums. And I realized that on some point I turned in a role model for them, and I mean I take it serious with them, and I try to support them. And when I get questions from female drummers, I always try to answer, even if I don't have that much time. And I enjoy to see at clinics, you know, that there are a lot of girls in the room, and they tell me actually that it's important for them to have someone out there between all these guys. Sure. Where they can say, yeah, it's working out at some point, it's cool, and it's allowed, and it's not reduced to something, you know. It's sure. Like we are just humans who play drums. Yeah. Right. And of course, over the last, I would say, 5 years, there are popping more girls on the drums up everywhere. Sure. In good levels.
Yeah.
Really
gig,
good
big,
levels.
Huge gigs, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, that's
right.
great.
It's good to see.
Definitely. I agree. All right, let's talk about some of your music, because you're a composer. You don't just play the drums. You compose some really great songs. And your record, Picalar, that's a kind of funny name. And there's a lot of great music on that record. That came out, you said, last January. Will you be playing some of those? Do you play a lot of those songs in your clinic?
Actually, yeah, I mainly play my own compositions in the clinics, sure.
And when you compose, what do you compose on? You compose on the drum kit? Do you play other instruments? Piano, guitar? How do you make your songs?
Mainly on keyboards.
Okay.
So mainly on keyboards, but the rhythmical ideas coming from the drums, actually.
Okay.
So, yeah. that's the way to go. And I'm working with my producer, which is also the guitar player in my band, and did the guitar on the record. And so we're working on that stuff mainly together. But now, since I guess 1.5 years, I'm working with the guys from the band as well for a couple of new songs, and we will do the next record. We do that together. So they're coming in on an earlier stage in songwriting now.
Very cool.
So
that's the band Neville, yeah?
Yeah, right.
Beautiful.
Right.
Yeah, and if for folks out there watching, Anika has tons of great YouTube content, and there's a lot of stuff with the guys playing.
Yeah, and there's coming up more
with you alone, so
over the next week.
Definitely check it out.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about gear. We're at Sweetwater. Sweetwater is all about gear, and we love Tama. We do lots of great business with the company, and I love the drums, and John Palmer out there. We've done some great videos together. It's a lot of good stuff. So what brought you to Tama drums, and what is it about the sound that speaks to you?
Actually, the sound brought me to Tama drums because I, for myself, find that Tama offers the sound naturally what I want to have for my personal drum sound. So I don't have to do a lot of things. Like I don't have to tune a lot. I don't have to figure things out with the drum heads a lot. It's like the natural sound is already what I want to have. And and this is why I reached out to the guys.
Sure. Now you're using a Babinga kit today.
Yeah.
I'm sitting behind the Maple Star kit, but what is the out of the Star line, because they make walnut as well, and I think I read somewhere you played a walnut kit on one of your clinics. What do you prefer one of the woods over the other, or does it matter? Do you like it all?
Actually, I like all because this is Star Series is a super dope series, but
super dope series.
Yeah, it is. But for my personal kit, I choose the Babinga wood because I love to have like a deep, fat bottom end sound, and the Babinga offers that. And also my preferred tuning is a really low tuning, which is also easier to get when you have a Babinga wood.
Okay. So. And you've been playing Meinl cymbals for a long time, and I know you love the dark sound of Meinl. I've been a Meinl player for quite a while too, and I love how the darkness that you can get out of their tones. And what brought you to Meinl? What do you like about their cymbals?
Actually, I always was a huge fan of these dark, dry cymbals. And we talked about the first video I released, Wild Boy, and one of the companies who reached out was Meinl, like on the next day. And I thought, oh yes, this is my chance now to get the best cymbals I can get for my taste, because they offered, or they're still offering the most, the big range of dark sounding cymbals, and this is what I love to play. And I love the cymbals, They offer the most, the biggest range in this series, and that's it.
And it's close to home too. When you can probably just go to the factory whenever you want.
But even if they would be based here in the US or somewhere else, I would play them. Yeah,
That's great. Let's talk about your hats. You have your own hi-hats.
Right.
Great effect sound. They're big, 18 inches. How did you design and come up with that particular?
Actually, I love big cymbals. So at home I have a 28-inch right, 28-inch right, yes, nice. Right. So I love big cymbals. So, and I was just watching out for a hi-hat which offers like a smooth and trashy sound. And I had that actually in the beginning. I had it like a regular hi-hat, and that didn't work out that well. It was too trashy, and so I just put it in here. And as a side hi-hat, I use it a little bit different, of course. So I figured out that this is a really good effect hi-hat. And you can use it in several ways because you have the clamp here, and you can open up the hi-hat like this, like a couple of centimeters. And then you have like a mix between a crash and a China sound, which you can use in a specific way, which is interesting. And if you close it just smooth, not really tight, then you have a really trashy sound. If you close it really tight, then you get a clean and dry sound as well, and that's all I want to have, And so I just figured out a couple of combinations of the both cymbals, and especially that combination I found the best.
Beautiful. Now, I'm sure you've been asked a million times throughout your career now, the angle of your cymbals. I've read why you do it, and I totally get it, and it makes total sense. But in case someone who's just seeing your kit for the first time and would probably ask that question, why are your crash cymbals angled away from you?
Actually, I did that for the reason that I don't hurt myself anymore while crash riding cymbals, because my cymbals are really low, so they are in a really low level, and when I crash riding my cymbals in that way, then I angle the cymbals are angled straight then, you know. So they are like this, and when I crash riding it, they are straight in that moment, and I feel that I have more control. But I have to play the cymbals in a different way. I don't crash riding it from the side, I crash riding from the top. So I just push the cymbals down, and this is the way to get more control over the cymbal. And I don't hurt myself anymore because, you know, my hand is in here and not in here anymore. So that's the main reason, actually. I got inspired by that stuff from Chris Coleman, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, he does that too.
Very cool. I like it. That's great information.
Good.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about drum heads.
Okay.
You're an Evans user. What is it about Evans that you like so much?
Actually, they have a huge range of different types of heads. So several ply heads, you know. And what I figured out is that actually, especially for the Tama drums, I use a low tuning, right? So for me, it's more that I use 2-ply heads.
Okay.
So, and in here they have a range of several 2-ply heads. And I just figured out which one of them is the best to get the sound I want to have.
Right.
And I mean, I love these heads because especially the EC2 in here.
Is that what you're using on the toms right now?
This is what I'm using on the 2.
Okay.
Because when I use the toms in a low setting, like tuned really low, then it loses a little bit like the highs and the attack and the punch. Everything is a little bit like in the mid, you know, and a little bit like dump or something. And the EC2, they're offering like a natural level of highs and a punch. So, and they dampen the resonance a little bit, which is also good because it should be a dry sound as well. And they do it naturally, so I like these heads. And it's my main setting. Sometimes I use the G2, which is also 2-ply head, but with a different coating. Right. They're offering a little bit more open tone. Right. If that is needed, then I do that. But my personal taste is using the EC2 on the toms.
Okay. And an EMAT on the kick drum, yeah?
EMAT on the kick drum, yes, right. My taste is really like a dry sound.
Yeah, no, cool. And you're using a Genera dry on the snare too, aren't you?
No, it's a HD dry.
HD dry, okay.
Yeah, and both snares. Yeah, and here you still have a lot of open tuning, open tone. Sure. It's not muffling too much. Okay. And in here, this is the onyx, the black onyx head, which is really thick. And that's the combination of this steel drum and the onyx head is the best combination in my ears for a sound like that. Because I use the snare in here like more included in fills instead of like using it as a snare. And it has a lot of lows in it. I tune this really, really low. And so this head already damp a lot the overtones. Right. That's really like short and deep.
Very cool. And before we close off this video, the setup of your kit. You have a 12-inch rack tom and then a 10, and then your 14-inch snare and then a 16-inch floor tom. Did that setup kind of come about over time? Did you have a traditional setup like I have when you first started and then kind of built on that? Or where did this sort of come about?
You know, I'm lazy in practicing several stickings, so that makes it easier.
Okay, that makes sense.
No, it's
Is that a joke?
Okay. joke. So no, so actually that came up because actually I played a kit like you for years, and as I built my setup a little bit like bigger, then I realized, okay, I feel just more comfortable with a 12-inch in front of mine because it is more powerful, more deep. The rebound is not that heavy like on a 10-inch, and so I just switched it around. Okay. That came up like that, and with the snare in here, this is actually a thing which I figured out while trying new stuff.
Okay.
So I recorded myself and listened to that stuff and found it really interesting to have a snare sound within fills.
Nice. Well, Anika, thank you so much for coming to Sweetwater. Please come back again and visit us anytime. Good luck on the rest of your clinic tour. Please go out and, if you haven't already done so, check out Anika's website, anikanilles.com.
Right. Yeah.
Anika's YouTube page, where there is YouTube channel, I should say, where there's tons of content and more coming all the time. On your website, there's a list of your tour dates and all kinds of stuff, so you can see where Anika's playing. If you want any information about any of the Tama, Meinl, or Evans gear you see up here, just contact your Sweetwater sales engineer. And Anika, thanks again so much. I'm really looking forward to seeing your clinic tonight, and good luck with everything.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure being here.
All right.